E41 Marketplace Ministries. It's all about your business, and it's all about our Father's business. It's ministry outside the box. No matter what your role is in the business world, E41 Ministries is a special place where we can walk worthy of the vocation wherewith we are called, just as Ephesians 4:1 commands us. In today's busy and frenetic world, it's a blessing to know that God has a plan to bring hope, comfort, and peace through Marketplace Ministry. The E41 Marketplace Ministry of the Fellowship, it's a kingdom-building business.
I'm Kerry Fink with E41 TV, and that's a part of the E41 Marketplace Ministries, which is an outreach of the Fellowship of Dallas, Texas. And E41, of course, stands for Ephesians 4:1, walk worthy in the vocation to wherewith ye are called. And so one of the goals that we do with E41 is we encourage people to really help build the kingdom in a meaningful way wherever you are. And certainly that happens, and that's the objective of us when we gather together in the church. But what happens the other days of the week when we're in the workplace, or we're in the marketplace, or maybe we're at a school, maybe we're in our government situation job, or whatever the case, where we're coming in contact with people and there's an opportunity to minister. How can we take advantage of that opportunity to help grow the kingdom and let people know that there is real, true hope out there, and that hope is Jesus Christ? Yeah. So with what we're going to do, we're blessed to be here in Mesquite, Texas, which is part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We're actually here at the beautiful Family Cathedral in Mesquite, Texas, and we're here together with Dr. Dave Robinson, who is heading up and presenting at the E41 Marketplace Ministries Conference here. And so over the past few days, Dr. Robinson has been really imparting a lot of information and wisdom from his decades of experience as a coach, a mentor, a minister's friend, helping churches get everything organized so they can be as effective as they can be. His own background is coming from a successful business background, but also that of a person who has many years of ministerial experience himself. And so throughout this entire conference, we've been learning and hearing about different aspects that will really empower those attending to then now take the gospel back to their workplace, their marketplace, and the place they are. So as part of that, we've had the luxury and the privilege of sitting down with many people who've been attending the conference, who've all really told us that they've enjoyed the opportunity and the time together, and it's really kind of empowered them. They feel almost, I guess the term would be licensed in a way to be able to go out and with authority help tell the good news. And so today our guests are Alan Jones and his wife, Lori Jones. And you guys have a wonderful background that's going to be perfect for our discussion today. First of all, welcome to you guys both.
Thank you.
You both have an extensive background in what I would call the business world. I was hearing about your background of not only being in business and traveling in connection with that, but also the fact that you guys have operated and still operate a successful insurance agency. And so you have all that marketplace background. But then on top of it, you are really also in full-time ministry. I think, why don't you tell us a little bit about your roles? Sure, I know you head up the men's ministry, but give a quick overview on that.
Sure, be more than happy to. I'm men's pastor. It's the best of both worlds. I started an insurance agency about 12 years ago, and just was traveling all the time and was tired of traveling as a road warrior. And but I grew up in corporate America, so to speak. So I'd been in charge of training departments and so forth. So so started an insurance agency, and we've been serving the Lord for a long, long time. My wife loves to say that she was pretty much born in the church, which is a good thing. I wasn't. She was kind of missionary dating, which she probably shouldn't have been doing, but I'm so thankful she did. But yeah, so it's been great. We've tried to blend marketplace ministry and pastoring and ministering together, and so it's been great. It's been really great.
And Lori, in addition to where you've been involved in the business and helping grow all that, but you also carry a huge responsibility because of the work that you do as the church's financial administrator, just working with all the papers and all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, make sure that our lights stay on.
That's important.
Electricity is on. But other than that, I have the privilege of answering the phones during the day, talking to people that needs prayer. I've counseled quite a few people walking through the door off the streets that have needed help. And that in itself is is my opportunity to be Christ or lend a hand to someone else. Right. It's easy to get caught up in the work of writing checks and paying bills, and you think that's all you do, and you don't feel like you're really contributing much in the marketplace as far as ministering to people. But I realize I really do have that opportunity when people come through the door, or just by answering a phone, that I can minister in a way that not everybody gets that opportunity to do. So it's a privilege.
Yeah. That's what's really fascinating. Some of the things I've heard is that there's almost a paradigm shift in the way people look at it. Most people think, well, I'm going to go to my job. That's what I have to do to earn, so I can pay my light bill or whatever the case is. And yet what the idea or the concept of E41 Marketplace Ministries is probably almost spinning it the other way around. Say, I'm in the marketplace so that I can serve and be an ambassador and explain what really the good hope and the good opportunity is there. And by the way, I'm going to get paid for interacting with people.
Yes.
It's really a wonderful thing.
Yes.
And I know your church here is on the cutting edge of this. You guys are wonderful hosts for the E41 Marketplace Ministries Conference. And as we were talking before the cameras are rolling, this is a vision that Dr. Dave Robinson has had for a while, because what he feels like is that while the people who are full-time on the staff of the church really work very hard to make sure that they are there for the congregation, they are there for teaching, they're there for helping them facilitate their walk with the Lord and such like that. But sometimes it stops right there. And so these people go off to their jobs, and then they're surrounded. They're here the 1 day or 2 days or whatever it is per week, but then they're in the secular environment the rest of the week. Yes. And what the objective is now is to actually have those people be part of the process, take what they're learning from you here and walk that out into the marketplace and help other people experience the same blessings that we get from being in the church. You particularly, having run the insurance agency and having that kind of experience, I was asking you, I said, do you find an opportunity to minister in that, even to people who may not share your faith?
Oh, absolutely. You have your clients, and if you care about your clients, and if you really, if they're not just a policy to you, or a commission to you, but if you really go into it with wanting to serve the Lord and add value to their lives and to your business, there's so many opportunities where people will call, and my clients know I have a prayer list, and so they will put themselves on the prayer list if they have issues that come up. So we really do try to put ourselves out there and not just be an insurance agency. And I happen to be a Christian that runs it. It really is, probably could be more, but could be an incredible ministry. And I think no matter what industry you're in, it could be that. It's interesting because I used to, when I was strictly in corporate America, we've always felt called to ministry. And so it was always this tension between, I really feel called to ministry, but I'm got to support my family, so I'm in corporate America. Sure. And there was always that tension. Now that I'm full-time ministry and have an insurance agency, I'm really seeing how really being out in corporate America is as much ministry, if not more, than being on staff at a church. And so it took me a long time to kind of figure that out, but great opportunities out there.
And let me ask you about that question, because I know you said you have a tremendous background as well from having been involved in various businesses. But when you were in just that quote unquote secular environment where people might know that you're people of faith and things like that, but you run into situations, how would you guys approach sharing your faith with people?
This goes back many years ago, but I was doing an office job, receptionist, and we had a young girl come in that was deaf, and we had hired her just to help file. I really had a desire to share the Lord with her, and I didn't know how to sign to her. After that, I went and learned, took classes at Eastfield and learned how to sign. But anyway, I would just take her in my car, and we'd have lunch together in my car, and we would just sit down and write notes back and forth.
Wow.
Just to ask her, how, just to get it started, what brought you here? Just little simple questions. And through that, just making a friend first, I was able to share Christ and to pray with her at different opportunities. So it's always been part of my personality is to share Christ with people,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just want them to know the Lord.
I think the times in business when I've tried to be too aggressive in my faith, and I realize there's times for that, but the times I've tried to be too aggressive, I've tended to repel people. It's when you've just been, you had a heart for them, and they know that you care about them, that it seems to just surface. It's just like the Lord opens up a door rather than me busting down the door with my faith. He just opens up that door. And so we've learned, she's been really good at this. I haven't been as much, just to kind of let God do what he does, and just live the life. And certainly our talk is Christian. We certainly talk about Jesus and things like that, but just not from an aggressive standpoint. That's been better for us.
Well, and I think that probably is an interesting point to bring out, because in so many environments, you're fortunate in the fact that you have your own business, so people sort of will understand where you come from and give you that as sort of an entrepreneurial. But we talk a lot of times to people who work in either a government environment or corporate environment where really they are told you cannot do this. And it becomes challenging for them because they want to share their faith, and yet they obviously can't. They have to work within the guidelines and the structures as provided. And what you said seems to come up as a common theme, that if you're not out there beating them over the head, but they really just see Jesus in you, then they come to the realization, I want that peace, I want that comfort that they have. What advice would you have for somebody, because you really have seen both sides. You have the entrepreneurship side, but you also know what it's like having to juggle all the things that go in that corporate environment. What advice would you give to somebody who's in that corporate environment who really is passionate about their Christianity? How would you help them maximize their opportunities there?
Yeah. I don't know if yours is different than mine. Mine would be certainly get the mind of Christ. I think so many times we just are so maybe passionate about sharing Jesus that we get in the way of him. And so really knowing there's something that we're doing these days we're calling it kingdom living, but we're asking the question wherever we go, God, what are you doing here? And so we try to walk into a situation, just simply ask that question, God, what are you doing here? And God will show what he's doing, rather than trying to manipulate or trying to work our way in some way. He is quite capable of opening up the door.
Amen.
And allow, now we've got to be willing to live the life in front of them and speak it too, I guess, if that door opens. So I think it's just getting the mind of Christ, getting the heart of the Lord, and asking him to do something, and then just being available to do it. It's really as simple as that, I believe.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that I've heard from so many people who that we've had the privilege of talking to, who've been here at the conference, that they're really excited. In fact, it was funny because I think Pastor Harry Sewell was closing one of the services because I'm going to have to rethink how I use the terminology, because now you guys are part of the ministry. How that has to be an amazing moment. I think we were talking about that. I think it's almost going to be fun. Like this program that we're taping today in January of 2015 is going to be an amazing time capsule from the standpoint when we come 1 year from now together again, and we would see all the progress and all the great things that have happened here. Because one of the things that seems to be important is, as you know, you touch the lives of all the families that are connected to the church, but then as they move out, it's almost like this huge mustard seed kind of thing that just keeps growing and growing because you're making those kind of efforts. One of the things, I was talking with somebody who was really excited about what you guys are doing in the men's ministry in particular. He mentioned that you're actually going into small group meetings in a coffee shop or places outside the home. And it sounds like there's an opportunity, not only is everybody edifying and building and working together within the group. But now it's actually creating this atmosphere where people around are, hey, what are you guys doing?
That's right.
Could you talk?
Sure. For years we've had this this program, I guess, I don't necessarily like to use that term, but called Band of Brothers. And that Band of Brothers, though, was small groups of men meeting in homes, which was fine. But once we felt like the Lord was leading us to start living a kingdom life, which is outside our own little group of people and the walls of our church, we changed our focus to kingdom, what we call kingdom. And we decided to start having what's called kingdom men groups, which are even smaller groups of men. So the biggest they can get is 6, and then you split and multiply. But those are all out in the marketplace. And so as we're talking and praying and just discussing, and our Bibles are open, and they're at coffee shops, we do have people who are interested in what we're doing, and there may be some people who don't like it, but we're out there in the marketplace. And when we walk into the location, we're just asking God, what are you doing here? And we're just believing that God, it's new for us. The Band of Brothers has been going a long time. Kingdom Men is brand new. And so we're believing God's going to open doors for us to not just minister to each other and hold each other accountable, but to be His men at that location, at that moment, for that specific time. So that's kind of how that's working. We're excited, very excited about it.
No, that's good. One of the things, this is probably the more controversial area, but one of the things that happens for Christians is they walk out into a marketplace where oftentimes it's kind of hostile to the concept. We see all the news articles. Somebody got offended because they saw the 10 Commandments on the wall in a certain building that they felt, or I'm offended by the nativity scene that's out there. There's a lot of this this righteous indignation that can exist out there. And we were talking, sometimes, as Christians, we can bring it on ourselves because we get too overdriven in our zealousness about it. But comment a little bit. Have you guys had experience? How do you manage that aspect of it?
Well, no, I'm only in one group, so we have 7 or 8 groups. We haven't heard anything about there being any type of antagonistic towards us. But then again, we're not wandering around trying to make converts. We're just open to whatever God's doing.
Sure.
And so we haven't had, as far as I know, as the men's pastor, haven't had a whole lot of that. But we're not pushing the agenda. We just really feel like if somebody's going through something and they see us there, and we're just open for them. So to come and talk to us. So we're not wearing T-shirts. We're not even advertising the church. We're really not about getting people to come to the church. That's just not what we're about. If somebody's there, we want to minister to them, and if they want to, fine. But so we haven't had a whole lot of that. But I know there are some of that out there. I think a lot of that though is probably, I don't know how to put it, kind of kickback from being people that are very aggressive will tend to get kickback like that. Now I know putting the 10 Commandments out there isn't aggressive, but as a pastor, it's easy to get out there and try to be too aggressive, and you get that kickback. But when you're out there just loving Jesus, just living the kingdom life, I think it kind of attracts people to you rather than repels them. Yeah,
I think that people see the Jesus in you, and they understand that you've got something that is valuable, and then they become more intrigued. Because we were talking to a couple of people who in their earlier life experience had maybe been challenged with different issues, and to some extent, I guess there's a feeling that church people oftentimes can be a little bit holier than thou, and so particularly for somebody who's in a crisis kind of mode, they almost like, well, don't preach at me. I know what I'm doing is not right. I mean, have you guys run across that, and how do you work with people where they are like that?
You probably come on that with people calling in, don't you?
Yeah, right.
I do. I guess I try to just listen for a minute.
That's good.
Hear their heart. And while I'm listening, I'm trying to hear God's heart.
Right.
Because it's easy. I always keep my Bible right there with me, but I don't want to shove the word down their heart. I want it to be down their mouth or their throat or whatever. I want it to be right from where Christ is leading me to say, whether it's a scripture or whether it's just something that I feel the Lord has placed in my heart for that person. And He will use me so often just to share a word that I can't even give you an example because it's not ever from me.
Right.
It's just something that the Lord would have me say to this person and just would bring them a peace and a calmness in their life. I've had several months ago, someone called in just frantic and they were going to commit suicide, and they decided to call the church as a last resort. And I was late to staff meeting, and the phone was ringing, but something inside me said, pick up the phone.
Take that call.
Awesome.
And I took that call. I don't have caller ID, so I didn't know who was on the other end of the phone. And it was this person, and I was just able to, not me, the Lord through me, was just able to pray for them and to calm them down and to just speak life into their life instead of death, which is what they were going to do. Now, I'm still believing that, they have found Christ and that I prayed the sinner's prayer with them and walked through that with them. But just being able to listen, I think, is the most important, is to listen to that person and allow Christ to speak through you.
It's interesting, too, because her personality is where she's very good at listening to people. My personality through the years has not necessarily been that. It's been more of the, I wouldn't say the holier than thou, but we've been doing this. We've been in Christendom a long time. And so it's real easy, I think, for people our age who have been doing this a long time to kind of look at people's situations through the filter of church and think, well, you should be doing better than that. And the Lord's really changed our hearts these last few years, to just, especially for me, because she's been pretty good at this, but just to just show a lot more grace and mercy and understanding in situations. And that has just, I believe, gotten us a lot further into people's lives than if you live the holy life, you can have what we have. I think he's just really torn that down for us. And a lot of it was just because we've grown up in this thing. It's just easy to kind of take that on. So I think just, God is a God of grace and mercy, and he loves us. And the people that are calling in that maybe even antagonistic to the gospel, he loves them.
That's
and
right.
So, we just have to be that to them. And so it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, there's I had heard somebody say it's people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so because of that, that's what you're saying is so important. You have to be there to hear what's going on. And I think that's one of the reasons why, personally, I believe the marketplace ministry aspect is so important, because you are there. It's almost like we talked with somebody who's a first responder kind of person. I said, you're right there. You're meeting people at the worst time, at the worst possible time, and yet there you are, and you're doing, and to some degree, I think that's what the opportunity in the marketplace presents, because, a lot of times people, when they are really walking with the Lord, then almost by definition, they're renewed, and so there's this whole thing that is happening with them, just as how they're living, but it's very easy, as you said, for us to forget, that God had grace and mercy on us too. And so in that aspect, then as you watch these, when you're there in the marketplace, you really are kind of a first responder. You're the one that hears about, I don't know if this is going to work out with my wife. I don't know, my kid has done this, or all the things that you hear through the process. And how would you, if you were talking to somebody, say in one of the men's groups, or perhaps you're at a women's retreat, and you guys are having this discussion, say, well, I don't know, how should I approach this with this person at my office who's asking me about this? In the spirit of marketplace ministry, what kind of things just generally might you advise them? Listen is a good one. Some other things?
I know for me, the thing that the Lord's really been dealing with me about, and we're trying to share it with the men, and I think I've seen this modeled from our son, who's a pastor, and but he is very good at just asking people to tell him their story. People want to tell you their story, and so if just simply asking, hey, so what's your story, or tell me what's going on in your life. People just tend to do that these days. That Facebook, for goodness sakes, is so huge, because people want to tell everything about their story, when they're drinking coffee and where they're at. And so people are open to that. And then that opens up the door for us to just share our story. And so that's kind of where at least I'm at, is that what's your story? And let me just share mine, and let's just see if that resonates with you. This is what God's doing. And it's just a better way, I think, to preach the gospel than to just, than to beat them over the head with it. And that happens in the marketplace.
I'm sure it does.
It doesn't happen a whole lot in the pews of the church, because we're kind of a focus. But in the marketplace is where the storytelling happens.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great model for witnessing for Christ.
Yeah, I do too. Do you want to have something to add, maybe from your perspective of talking to people who are running up on situations, and how do you approach somebody like that?
Yeah, I've been mentoring a young mom for a year, almost a year now. We meet Wednesday mornings at Panera Bread here in Mesquite, and we talk about life right there at that table. You know, and so I'm able to, we bring our Bible, we'll bring a Bible study of whatever that we're working. We've been working on one together. And it just allows us to be transparent with one another. She's young, a couple of young kids, young married, you know, so has a lot of questions. You know, she wasn't raised per se with a Christian family, going to church, bringing her to church and learning how to be a Christian wife, or how do I respond to my husband in this situation? And so I'm really able to just help her take a look at how, as a Christian mom would act, or just being a Christian wife, you know, how you respond to your husband in a certain way. And it's been very eye-opening as I'm getting to help her go forward in her life. I get to look back in mine and see, you know, well, if I could change some things, this is what I would change.
That's right.
And so it's been wonderful being able to help someone else and take them somewhere where they can go where I've messed up and say, don't do it this way, but you might want to try it this way. You know?
I think that's one of the beauties of Marketplace Ministry too, is like when we meet for the small groups for men, we're there, and you know, if somebody shows up there and God's doing something in their heart, then we're going to minister to them. But what she does, and I think where a lot of Marketplace Ministry happens is when people go to their work, they're building relationship with people. And I really think the Lord really works through the building of that relationship, because, you know, we may be at a coffee house and somebody comes by and says, what are you doing? And can we pray for you? And that's one thing. But true Marketplace Ministry, or in addition, is going to that job every day and you're building relationship with those people. And at some point in time, I think that relationship is what builds that bridge to Christ. And, you know, because they see you every day, it's not a one-shot thing. And that's what she's doing there. She's just building that relationship, you know.
And, you know, in fact, at this one restaurant, we get the same waiter. And so a couple of weeks ago, he came by, and my friend hadn't gotten there yet. And I had my Bible out, and I was doing my study. And he said, oh, I see you've got the Bible. I said, yes, I do. I said, I totally believe in the Word, and it can change our lives. And he said, amen, sister. And he was younger. He was a young man. And he said, well, I need you to pray for me. I'm going through some stuff at home. And I said, I'll be more than happy to.
Amen. See, that's what this is
about.
really all about. That's really, we're out of time, but that's really a perfect summation anyway of what E41 Marketplace Ministries is all about. Because every place you go, there's an opportunity to minister. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you
for having us. We appreciate it very much.
It's been a blessing.
We enjoy it.
Thank you so much for joining us today too. I'm Kerry Fink for E41 TV. God bless you.